to call our meeting to order for Tuesday, June 16th. We're going to be continuing on our budget hearings, but first I'll check in and see if there's any moments of silence today. I don't believe there was. Pledge of Allegiance, Supervisor Pyska, would you lead us today?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to our timed items. The first is 4.1, our 9 a.m. item for public input. This is for public input for anything that's not on the agenda today, which is more budget hearings. So I'll open it up to the room. Do we have anybody here that wishes to make public comment this morning? Come forward, state your name, ma'am, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I was running a little late, so I'm a bit out of breath. My name is Sarah Long, and I live in Upper Lake. I'm here because I live in Meadow Point Community Park, which is owned by Harmony Communities. I know a lot of you know that in December they raised our rent by $350. In their own words, an effort to get around proposed rent control laws that were pending. They do give us the $350 statement credit, but it can be taken away at any moment. It's very scary to have that looming over our heads. They also further raised our rent another $45 3 months after that. They raised our rent 3 times in a 12-month period. Even with the statement credit, my rent is $645, which is very high for a manufactured home park in Lake County. I've been trying to sell my home for months because I really don't want to live there with who owns it now. But they told me that anyone that purchases my home has to pay $735 a month, which is almost $100 more than I pay. But if you buy a home that they own, it's less than I pay now. And the difference is between $150 to $200. There's no incentive to buy any of the tenant-owned homes. I've dropped my price 3 times. I have it listed below fair market value right now. Lots of people are interested. It's a very nice home. It's younger than I am. It's in good condition. Every single interested party has said the rent is too high, and that's the #1 factor. I feel stuck. I feel like I can't sell my home. And my neighbors and I, even the neighbors that don't want to move, it's too hard on us, the constant rent increases, the constant changes. A lot of my neighbors are retired. They're on fixed incomes. They simply can't afford this. So anything the board can do to help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Miss, what's your name again?
Sarah Long.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else in the room?
Good morning. My name's Tom Flanagan. I live at Sterling Shores. I just wanted to again remind you guys of the pass-through issue, not the pass-through issues, but this transfer issue where a home is sold and then the owner of the park can charge more for that space. So it's an incentive for the owner to get people out, and they do that by raising rent and lowering services. And I just want to I'm saying that over and over again, I just want to make sure that's in the final RSO. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Maya Lynn, and I live in Sterling Shores Mobile Home Park, and I'd like to make some corrections to the record B that seems to keep going around. I didn't say anything the first time. I don't know if you guys even read it or notice it, but I thought, all right, I'll let it go. Second time the article repeats, they have it incorrect. It's Meadow Point, in case anybody from Record B is listening, is the one that has the $350 a month rent increase. It's not Sterling Shores. I did not say that, as you guys know, but I keep being repeated incorrectly. We have the $485,000 pass-through fees from 2018 that we're paying. And plus the 7%. The rest of it is correct, but they have that incorrect. So, and following up on what Sarah says, as I talk to residents in my park who are older than me, most of them, there are some younger, but they are like, oh, we have, 8 places for sale. We've never had 8 places for sale. And they seem to think that, I don't know, they don't get it. The reason there's 8 places for sale is because they're charging more than what they can now because our rates have gone up so much. And Caritas doesn't care that they're for sale or that they sit there empty. because they're going to make their money. They don't care if you're in a nursing home. They don't care if you have lost your memory. They don't care. They're going to get their money. If you sell and you move out to go somewhere else, it's okay with them. They're going to get their money. And if you walk away from your home, they get your home. And they're okay with that because then they can turn around and sell it at a price that works for them because they got it for nothing. And that's what's happening in Meadow Point. That's what's happening all across the country. So they don't care if 8 units sit there. It doesn't bother them a bit in the world. They get their money. And people are letting their places go for like, 50 to 100,000 less than they have to because they can't sell and they can't get out and they can't go live with their family in an ADU unit now, or that's what they're trying to do, but they can't sell their home and people are having to lower, as I just said, repeating myself, but Caritas doesn't care. They're going to receive their money. If we don't put a fair stop on this, what's going to happen, everybody will die off, new people will come in, who will go ahead and say, oh, well, the rent, instead of it being, $1,000 a month, it's $1,200. Okay, but we only paid, $100,000 for this really nice place. So that kind of balances out. So they're okay with that. It's the people who are there now that are suffering. But once we all die and move on, this will all be over if we don't do something and stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room who wishes to speak? Not seeing any. Move online. Do we have anyone? Yes. Hillary Mosier. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Hillary Mosier, the Regional Manager for the Golden State Manufactured Homeowner League, and I'm here this morning coming to you from Humboldt County to urge you to please don't delay enacting your RSO. Your ad hoc committee has been meeting weekly at least for 6 months. That's at least 24 meetings. No. In my 10 years experience with RSOs across the state, that should be more than enough. Usually, if there's a holdup, it's a delay-related legal counsel. And while we appreciate that the committee wants to get everything right the first time, we also know that while time passes, park residents are currently suffering unintended consequences, such as the $300 that Sterling Shores residents have already had to pay for pass-through fees they paid for previously. In addition, as local realtors will attest, lot rent in many parks has increased for new buyers to the point where homes cannot be sold and park owners are appropriating them and then lowering the rents and selling at 100% profit. In essence, by continuing to wait to enact your RSO, you are incentivizing this scam for predatory park owners like Matt Davies. As a possible solution to your dilemma, Gizmo is offering, at our expense, our longtime attorney specializing in writing and defending RSOs. We encourage you to consult with Bruce Stanton. He is available at no cost to the county and the most experienced attorney in the state in issues related to RSOs. Please call him to complete your RSO and enact it no later than July. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online? Yes, we have Sterling. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sterling.
Okay, so I have a comment about yesterday's budget. So I don't know if I can talk about it today, but there's not a space for this. So I kind of want to put my public comment in there about the numbers that were shown. So I'm here today because I'm concerned about the long-term financial future of Lake County. According to the county's own 5-year forecast, general fund resources are projected to decline from approximately $103.6 million to approximately $71.9 million by financial year 2030-31. That means the county is projected approximately $31.7 million less than the general fund revenue over the next 5 years. At the same time, the county projects a negative $71.7 million fund balance by financial year 2030-31. If current trends continue, Payroll and benefits are projected to increase from approximately 58.5 million this year to approximately 74.7 million by financial year 2030-31, an increase of more than 16 million. Even more concerning, payroll and benefits increased by more than 10 million in a single year, from approximately 58.5 million in financial year 25 and 26 to approximately 69 million in the financial year 26-27. By financial year 2030-31, payroll and benefits alone are projected to exceed the annual general fund's revenue. It comes down to simple math. The county's projections bringing in about 71.9 million in general fund resources, while payroll and benefits alone are projected to cost about 74.7 million. That means salaries, pensions, and benefits alone exceed projected general fund revenues by nearly 3 million before we pay for roads, bridges, emergency services, elections, insurances, and county buildings. We still have to maintain our infrastructure. We already rely heavily on grants to repair roads, bridges, and water systems. Grants are important, but grants should supplement local funding, not replace it. Lake County household earns about 60 to 70,000 a year. Families are struggling with groceries, fuel, housing, insurance, and utilities. Household incomes are not projected to increase at the same pace as compensation costs. I respect the hard work of county employees, and this is not about employees. It is about financial stability. My question to the board is simple. From a basic business perspective, if business owners project future deficits, they would evaluate spending, hiring, and compensations to avoid those deficits. When compensation agreements and raises were approved, were these long-term financial projections presented to the board? And if they were, why are those decisions made knowing these projection deficits existed? I respectfully request the board consider a temporary freeze on additional executive and management compensation increases until a public review of the county long-term financial outlook is completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
We do. We have user one.
User one.
Lewa, Pillsbury Family Farms. Leadership is about the example that you set. Every department head, manager, and employee in this county takes their cues from somewhere. They take them from the leadership of this board provides. If accountability is important to you, your departments will value accountability. If transparency is important to you, your departments will value transparency. If responsiveness to the public is important to you, your departments will value the responsiveness. But when delay becomes acceptable, unanswered questions become acceptable, avoiding difficult questions and conversations becomes acceptable, then the culture spreads throughout the county as well. One thing that has always concerned me is how often the public struggles to obtain basic information from its own government. I heard comments made yesterday from the supervisors that if somebody wants information, they can simply ask a supervisor instead of filling out a public records request. Many of the members already send emails and never receive a response. Many citizens ask questions and get redirected from department to department, and many people spend months trying to obtain information that should be readily available in the first place. The solution to transparency should not be knowing the right person. The solution should not be finding the right supervisor. And the solution should not be persistent luck and personal connections. The solution should be a government that's committed to the openness from the start. Transparency is not a favor that the government grants to the public. It is an obligation. And the public should not have to fight for information that rightfully belongs to them. And when the trust in the government begins to erode, it is rarely because of one decision. It is usually because people begin to feel that information is being withheld and questions are not being answered. That is why the leadership matters. And the culture of this county begins with this board. And the standards that you tolerate become the standards that the public receives. Moleha.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? No. I'll close public comment, and we're going to move on to our 4.2, 9 a.m. public hearing, consideration of recommended budget for fiscal year 2026-27 for County of Lake and special districts governed by the Board of Supervisors. And this is day 2 of our budget hearings, and today we're going to start with animal control. So at this point, Ray, I'll turn it over to you. Director, I'm sorry.
Morning, Board, and good morning, members of the public. I'm Marie Smith. I'm the Director of Animal Care and Control. I wanted to start out, before we get into the budget, just giving a couple of thanks to a bunch of the county departments that I really feel grateful to. Admin, of course, the Auditor Controller's Office. There's so many who have really helped me as I have onboarded and got my feet wet in all things county related and got to know the department. And in particular, I just want to say thank you to Stephen Carter, who in the interim managed the department prior to my arrival. Animal control is a very emotional department. The work that we do is inherently sensitive to many members of the public. And there's been a learning curve, of course, as I've come on. So there's quite a lot going on. Animal control, generally speaking, is our primary duty is rabies control. We also are responsible for intaking stray dogs, caring for any animals that come in as sick or injured. Last year, our officers did approximately 1,200 calls on a year-end basis. They usually do somewhere around 1,200 to 1,400 calls for service. Last year, actually, as of June 2025 through June 12th of this year, the 4 officers that we have completed 1,648 calls for service. Year over year, the shelter generally takes in between 1,200 and 1,300 animals. We seem to be on pace with that for this year. As of June 12th, we were sitting at 1,215. So I expect that we hit that 1,300 mark by the end of this month. This budget that I manage is 2703 is the general fund budget, and 2711 is the restricted veterinary clinic fund. The budgets were largely prepped by our staff analyst, who is actually no longer with the department. So I appreciate his work getting this together for me for presentation. While we were preparing these, we looked at the historical data over the past several years and how we have projected those expenditures and revenues for this coming fiscal year. And the goal really of that was so that we could cure a solid foundation to build upon for the strategic vision for the shelter. So I'll start by going into the 2703 general fund. What the staff analyst and I tried to best project was our expenditures and revenues for that. I hope to bring a revised contract for the city of Lakeport to you. I spent a significant amount of time over the past couple of months revising that. Has been handed over to Lakeport for consideration. So hopefully I will bring that to you. My assumption is that the revenue generated from that will increase with the next year. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out a new, quote, shop rate for the officers and the time that they spent on the calls. There wasn't a whole big difference in the prices for impound services, boarding fees, just because of the master fee schedule and not having enough time to really come up with a justification in time for budget season to really increase those prices. They'll be minimal for the CPI though. But based on projecting that we do the same kind of services that we have over the past several years, my expectation is that the revenue generated from that will double, if not close to triple. one of the most important things that I tried to establish with the 2703 budget was the allocation for mid-level supervisors. At this current point in time, I have a staff of 20, not including myself. 25% of those are full-time, with the rest being either part-time or extra help. And so it's arguably difficult to manage 20 staff on my own and reasonably be able to mentor and evaluate 20 different staff. So we did meet with the Class and Comp Committee for a reallocation for the kennel coordinator to be bumped up to a shelter supervisor. And with the absence of the staff analyst, one of the goals was to completely eliminate the deputy director position and establish a animal control office supervisor. So having these two mid-level supervisory positions, I feel will stabilize oversight for the kennel portion and for our office portion, and really take that kind of burden off of me to better be able to manage and supervise those. So those were two positions that were allocated within this budget that, hopefully, if this passes, we can move forward with that. One thing that I did include in there is a hope or a want for a volunteer or foster coordinator to complement our adoptions coordinator. It's a position that the department has never had, and a position that I feel would be very beneficial to the shelter for our capacity and the volume of animals that we hold. Being able to transfer those animals out for foster care, or to have volunteers finally at the shelter to be able to care for those animals and take them out with the hopes of keeping them more mentally stable for adoption purposes. One of the things that was included in this budget that I want to mention is the extraordinary requests. There are a number of extraordinary requests that I submitted that are not possible within the current given budget for this year. Many of these things are for capital improvements and for the expansion of livestock areas that really don't exist at the shelter at this time. There's likely to be some revisions to those between the time that the capital or those were submitted compared to the further evaluation that I've done between then and now. And then so unless there's questions about that, I guess I can jump into the 2711 medical expenses for the veterinary clinic.
Do we have any questions at this point?
Wait.
Okay,
Wait till it's done.
okay,
Okay.
go ahead and continue.
So for the 2711, this is obviously the budget unit for the veterinary clinic. A lot of our expenses for veterinary care come out of here. We have not, as you know, we have not had a veterinarian for many years, and it is a significant challenge to be able to recruit and obtain one of those. One of the items that is initially budgeted or transferred into the 2703 fund is $135,000 that comes from geothermal funding, which is then transferred into the 2711 budget. Those funds are used purely for the expenses for medical care for animals. So this includes spay neuters, vaccinations, surgeries, any kind of emergency medical care. These funds are completely spent to outside veterinary partners because we don't have a veterinarian, and we rely heavily on our 4 veterinary partners throughout the county. So these funds are critical for us to be able to utilize for those animals. Obviously, I mentioned that we don't have a veterinarian, and unfortunately, what I should mention in this budget hearing is a little bit more bad news that's coming down the pipeline. We have been fortunate enough that we have had a veterinary of record with Dr. Cannon from Wasson Vet. And after several discussions with her and her team, after 43 years, she's close to retirement, which means that we are close to losing our vet of record, which is going to come as a large hit to us, not only to not have a vet of record, but she did that out of the goodness of her heart, free of charge. Now, prior to me coming here, we were approached by a different veterinarian, Dr. Bennett, who runs her own business. She serves for the UC Davis and as the head of their shelter medicine program for animal shelters across the state. She came to us with a contract proposal to be our vet of record. And while there are many benefits to it, it's still, the contract does not allow for her to be present at the shelter to perform those surgeries or those diagnostics or treatment of animals. And on top of that, what I would say is that were we to go forward with this contract, it would come at a yearly cost of $104,000. So while it is not a long-term solution, it is doable within the budget on a temporary basis. And one of the items that she would be pitching and supplying to us is to help with the recruitment of a full-time veterinarian in the future. So those that proposed contract has been sent over to County Council for review and conformity into what our standardized contract looks like. So I'm hoping to bring that to you as well for comment and potentially approval for that. The goal for that was to have the vet of record start in July of 1st. And it's a critical piece because without having a veterinary of record, there are many services that we can't perform that would be very difficult, if not completely impossible, which would be, administering rabies vaccinations, euthanizing animals, ordering drugs that are essential to our operations. So moving forward, I think that the goal for the 2711, financially speaking, is to create a solid groundwork for where we want the unit to go in the future, to stabilize our veterinary clinic operations and develop a routine and decrease essentially external costs to our veterinary partners. And so I think that's about all I have for that.
All right. Thank you, Director. Board members, questions? Supervisor Spatier.
Appreciate that you've been here literally for a minute and that you're already on the verge of finalizing a updated contract with the City of Lakeport. I think it's been at least 20 years, if not longer, since that's been updated, and hoping that it has flexibility so it can keep increasing based on whatever our fee structure, because I think it was very set specifically to it was set to a finite number in that contract, no matter what we changed in our fee structure. So that's looking good. The vet thing, I don't know that I can approve that today. I like the concept. I don't know that I want to dive both feet in. We need a vet of record, period. That is one thing. I don't know that what you explained feels like a similar process we had where we paid somebody to help us out and then help us find someone else, and eventually got into a situation that felt very awkward. And so I don't want to fall in that same situation, but I do know we have a contract with UC Davis, or we signed a contract with UC Davis to help us find people. I know we had a contract with UC Davis. I think it goes all the way back to when Jonathan Armis was here. I remember, I have to look it up. But it was something along the lines of we want to work with getting internships from students. We want to work in getting people to come here and spend their time here. And nothing ever came of it. So I don't know if that died and it's no longer a case. It expired. But working with UC Davis is definitely probably the best chance we have to getting somebody at this moment in time. So I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know if it's something we need to talk about again on Wednesday and move with it. But it is important that we not be stuck in a situation where we have zero vet of record, because that means we can pick up dogs, but we can't take care of them in the way that we should. So.
Go ahead, CAO.
If I may, Chair. Yes, the contract regarding the vet of record should just come back at a regular meeting with the full board in attendance to be discussed further.
Okay. Supervisor Owen, or go ahead.
Just to finish off, so that means it's not an extraordinary request. It's within the margins of the budget that is already being offered, that has gone through the review process.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I heard it as an extraordinary request, so that's why I was saying that. Okay.
Supervisor Owen.
Yeah, I think the extraordinary request was the pins for the livestock, is that correct?
Those were part of
Part
it.
of it. And at this moment, I think we know we're also working on, I think the Lake County Rodeo is wanting to put some pins up too, which would be portable. And that might also, working with them. I know we were supposed to have a meeting and we had to cancel that meeting. So getting you together with them, that might resolve a lot of problems, because they're wanting to do some, have a spot for evacuations up in North Lake County during wildfires and emergencies. So I was excited to get you hooked up with them. I'm hoping that can happen soon.
I actually did meet with them
Oh, good,
last week.
good.
And as a matter of fact, we did give them some old panels to use
Okay,
for that purpose.
perfect.
The extraordinary request that I submitted for concerning livestock is small livestock, goats and sheep.
Okay.
And the build for, a lot of it comes down to the fencing expense.
Right,
But
right.
also for fowl.
Okay.
We don't have an area really for fowl.
Okay.
We did purchase new coops for them, but we need to be able to properly fence them in. And on top of that, given that a lot of times we impound a large number of fighting cocks, we need to have areas to be able to house those as well. So it's not something that the rodeo would be able to assist
Sure.
us with.
Sure, and the fowl was not something that we had talked about on my tour. The goats and sheep, of course, were. So, yeah, I was aware of that. So, the Dr. Bennett, now as I understood it when I was talking to you before, she is actually employed with UC Davis, correct?
Correct.
And that there might be something where we can work it out where she'd be part and she'd had somebody else part-time that they could work together. Is that what, am I remembering that correctly?
Essentially, what the proposal is for the contract is serving as vet of record. She wouldn't be present at the facility. There is no partner who would be present at the facility
Okay.
for any of these. A large part of what the goal of this is to establish a solid foundation for the clinic, which includes standard operating procedures that, while there are some, they have been piecemealed over the years from different vets, and I've looked at them myself. I have no idea where they came from, which vet they were, whether they're currently up to date with the most current veterinary standards. And so having a uniform set of standard operating procedures, largely in part her holding the DA license for us to be able to order drugs, working with our registered veterinary technician and some of our other staff and support for these veterinary clinics that we, or these microchip and vaccine clinics that we do. But overall, establishing a more solid foundation for what our clinic is, and then of course the assistance in the recruitment of a veterinarian.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think, have you by chance reached out to any retired vets or other vets in the area to see if they were willing to kind of help us out like Dr. Cannon was doing?
I have not, given that I haven't been here very long. I've discussed this with my staff and particularly my kennel coordinator who's been with the county for 25 years, and at every turn they've declined.
Okay.
There is a lot of risk associated
Sure.
with tying their license to our operations.
Sure, sure.
And it takes a lot of time away from them and their clinic when we have to constantly call them for advice about or treatment protocol or approval to perform some kind of procedure at the shelter.
Sure. And I think we might have touched on that in one of our animal control meetings, but I just thought publicly I needed to bring that up. Thank you.
Supervisor Pyska.
I have a question. The position allegations, are these different? Because we've done a lot of moving around lately for the department. Are these new to be considered at the end, or are these the positions that we've been talking about moving around?
So these positions are replacing existing positions that are there. So it will actually be a savings.
Okay.
So overall FTEs are not changing, but the title and responsibilities are.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Perfect. And then we can talk about the extraordinaries tomorrow when we get to that.
Go ahead, CAO.
Yes, thank you. May I speak to that, Chair?
Yes, please.
As you know, we have proposed a balanced budget, which does not include these extraordinaries. In fact, during our fiscal presentation, we noted that we recommend no extraordinary. So I want to keep that in mind, because if we include extraordinaries, we're going in the opposite direction.
Okay. So I recently heard in the last few months that Lake County has now been added to the list for loan forgiveness for veterinarians. And it's probably something you're aware of too. And Dr. Jenny Lane, who now works with our UC Extension, is a vet who recently worked at UC Davis before she started with the extension in January, I think. So she might be a great person to talk to. She lives in the county, has a lot of experience, and she and I have been talking about this for years. So just one other person to maybe help talk this through, to locate some of these, maybe a vet who really needs to get their loans forgiven can move to our county, and maybe we use that as a recruitment strategy.
All right, so the proposal on the 104,000 for the vet of record, just to be clear, that would be coming out of money that we would have for the veterinarians. So it's been there, it's there. So I don't have a issue with that, that part of it. Is there any other board questions before I open it to the public? Not seeing any. So is there anybody in the room that wishes to comment on the animal control budget 2703 or vet medical clinic 2711? Yes, ma'am, come and state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Linnea Mullins, and I've been sending you some email correspondence because I've been working on this issue since 2022. And I wanted to make a very warm welcome to Ray. I am so happy and thankful we have a director now. That is progress. And I just feel like the animal issue is very important, and I'm hoping to encourage the supervisors to move it up to the top tier of your list because it has impact all across the county. And so I think it is basically 2022, everything came to a halt when the vet died. And so part of what I see is that, okay, if I was sitting in your seat, I would have been saving any salary savings from the vet position. And then I would have also been looking at, there was a period of time when we didn't have a director. Once again, salary savings should have been ideally set aside because this problem didn't go away. Matter of fact, it got worse. Every day that we do nothing, those animals are out there multiplying. And so I feel like we don't even know how many animals are that need to be fixed. But the here we are in 2026. So I think challenges are also opportunities. And so what I would see is, you know, in my past, I worked for the state of California in a variety of positions. So I was quite often brought in to deal with huge problems. I mean, things that were just like tied in knots, and you have to take a big view. And see, I'm almost out of time. UC Davis, yes, I've been wishing for that forever. They could change our lives because that's where all the vets are. And they also have mobile vet clinics. So I think any connection she can make with UC Davis, go for it. And I was hoping maybe the supervisors might want to, some of you go on a field trip with Ray and go visit. There's a process called benchmarking. You don't reinvent the wheel. You look at the most successful organizations, go visit them, take out of that what you can do and start, just start. And the plan can always be revised, but I would really appreciate it if we could make the animals the priority and make our county be a role model instead of the current black eye that we get from Clear Lake, that no one really knows that we're not Clear Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Margot Kambara. I have a couple of comments and a suggestion. First is, it seems problematic not having a vet of record on site. I know it's probably beyond our control. Secondly, my suggestion is, in the contract, if you choose to have UC Davis as part of our solution and accept their offer to help with recruitment, put metrics around that. For instance, quantify it somehow, because it's very vague to say, oh, we'll help you recruit. Well, what does that look like? And what do they have to do to fulfill their end of the bargain in that contract? I know it's, as Supervisor Pyska said, or mentioned, that there is an offer there with pursuing loan forgiveness. That is a great strategy to try to use that as a recruitment tool. Another long-term solution may be, again, to grow our own. For the county to offer scholarship program to get one of our local residents through vet school and have an employment contract or obligation to get that scholarship, you have to serve the county for so many years as a vet. And if you don't, then that means repaying the county for your veterinary educational fees, etc. It's a tough situation, I know, and it's a lot, it's challenging, especially when we don't have the funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Not seeing any, we'll go online. Anyone? I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for anything final. Do you have?
Am I correct in believing that in September, when we do our final budget, you anticipate to show the increase in the contract situation with Lakeport if that is finalized, or that's not part of the plan?
That's part of the plan.
And so at that point, you'll be able to rearrange some of your appropriations, which may or may not provide for the extraordinary at that point in time?
It potentially.
You said doubled or tripled, so that's why I'm going from that.
I'm waiting on them to come back with their revisions.
And I like what was discussed. I'd be in full support if there was a potential for a public-private partnership or a public nonprofit partnership in figuring out in the interim what that could be. But I have high hopes for that contract, and I look forward to seeing the change in September. So thank you for working on that.
Yeah. I just would note that even though the potential for double to triple the funds received from that contract and the services we provide, to put that in perspective, on average per month, what we are earning in revenue from them is somewhere between $300 and $400. So while I think there's high hopes, I don't know if it would really make a huge change with some of these other expenses.
But it needs to change. So.
Yes.
Anything further from the board or ready for action?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve 2703 and 2711 as proposed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0.
Thought I heard a click.
Was there? No.
No, that was me.
All right, so that concludes this item. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Ray.
And next, we're going to move on to our Social Services Department and numerous budget units. The first one is Administration, 5011, Social Services Special Programs, 5012, General Welfare, 5121, Wraparound Services, 5125, Housing Administration, 5164, Housing Home Program Income, 5165, Senior Citizen Programs, 5168, General Relief, 5281, and IHSS Public Authority, 5282. And I'll turn it over to Director Delman Parsons.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. Rachel Dillman Parsons, Social Services Director. I have our fiscal team here with us today. We have Kelly Page, our Deputy Director. Online, we also have Carrie Holt and Nicole Streif, available to answer any questions after our comments. Kelly will deliver our comments, after which I will have a few brief remarks for you also.
Good morning. First, as I typically do, I want to thank our DSS accounting team. It's a large budget, and our team is amazing. They never cease to amaze me anyway. I also want to thank the admin office for all the assistance we received in putting the information together. Like Rachel mentioned, we do have Nicole and Carrie on standby in the Zoom in case we did not prepare for any questions you may have. I'll start with a brief overview of our budget units and what they do. First is 5011, Social Services Administration. This is the administrative budget for DSS. It provides our staffing, services, and supplies necessary to carry out our departmental functions. In addition to administrative expenses, the budget also includes certain program expenses such as CalFresh, Medi-Cal, CalWorks, Welfare to Work, Supportive Services and Childcare, Adult Protective Services, Public Guardian, Public Administrator, and Direct Child Welfare Services. This budget also includes IHSS Public Authority contract costs. The next budget, 5012, is our Special Programs budget. This budget unit is comprised of staff assigned to the Public Authority and to the Area Agency on Aging. Next up, Budget Unit 5121, General Welfare. This budget unit provides assistance payments to families through the CalWorks program. It funds direct payments to resource families and residential facilities for children who are removed from their homes. The budget unit also funds the county share of payroll costs for IHSS providers who assist older adults and those with disabilities so they can remain safely in their home. The next budget unit is 5125. This budget is wraparound services. This is the budget unit where we would deposit CWS wraparound reinvestment funds. These funds are used to cover specific CWS services as determined by the DSS director. Next up, 5164, Housing Administration. This budget unit includes operation of the Housing Choice Voucher Program and staffing and support for our other housing budget unit, 5165. 5165, Home PI Housing Services. This budget unit consists of loan payment proceeds from first-time homebuyer and owner-occupied rehabilitation loans that were made from home grants in previous years. 5168, Senior Citizen Program. This budget unit assists in supporting local senior centers and provides Lake County's matching funds to the Area Agency on Aging of Lake and Mendocino counties. 5281, General Relief. This budget unit is comprised of the General Relief Program assistance payments. And finally, 5282, the IHSS Public Authority Administration budget. This IHSS Public Authority budget maintains the registry of screen providers and offers training to providers and recipients. The Public Authority contracts with Social Services Budget Unit 5012 for staffing and Budget Unit 5011 for operations. A few of the comments on our budget units. The DSS budget is primarily comprised of state and federal dollars. Total recommended budget amount across all budget units is about $74.8 million for this upcoming fiscal year. The bulk of our budget is derived from funding generated through continuous time study to state and federal funding sources. Every single employee at DSS is required to assign their time to an appropriate time study code in order to draw down the associated task-specific funding. Our position changes for this fiscal year. We did not add any positions this year. We actually were able to remove 5. We also requested to change 1 social services aide position to a social worker position in our adult services division. And this is to better assist and serve clients and to help prevent IHSS penalties from the state that may be levied against us due to late assessments. The capital asset requests, I know there was mention of the $200,000 for financial management software. That one's been on our radar for a few years. We were planning to purchase new financial management software, and then County IT let us know that Workday was on the horizon, so we paused on that. We've left this amount in the budget just in case we need to build something specific to DSS to enable our finances to speak to Workday. We do have a rather antiquated system now, as our auditor is finding out. And we just want to be prepared in case we need to help make this thing work. So that $200,000 is there for that purpose. It is not a separate financial system. We also have $20,000 for a lobby kiosk at the main Anderson Ranch building. This one was also in last year's budget, but the procurement process is somewhat slow dealing with the state, and we do anticipate this will be completed this fiscal year. And just a summary of our 26-27 recommended budget. Our requests represent a responsible planning tool to maintain mandated services, support vulnerable populations, and ensure compliance with state and federal requirements. Increases across the budget units are driven primarily by personnel and benefit costs, supportive services for clients, and countywide cost allocation changes. The department will continue to prioritize fiscal stewardship while sustaining essential services for children, families, seniors, and those adults in need.
Thank you, Kelly. Great as always. I just wanted to address the recommendation for a hiring freeze. In general, we don't have any objection to that, provided there is the same process that normally is in place with the hiring freeze to request exceptions due to extraordinary circumstances of the CAO to allow hiring. As Kelly mentioned, our funding is contingent on having staff in our positions to pull down those funds. Our funds are pulled by time study, and by not filling our vacancies, we end up with less funding to operate our programs. And there is the potential of very real fiscal sanctions from the state and federal government. So we really need to be all hands on deck, especially with the implementation of HR 1. The workloads are going to close to double, and we don't anticipate the caseloads shrinking as much as our workload will increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from supervisors at this point?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Supervisor Pike.
I'm trying to remember the specifics, and I know I had asked Stephen and Casey, but I didn't ask you. A few years ago, we allocated a general fund position for housing, and with different changes that we've been making, is there the chance that that program or that position will be absorbed into one of the housing programs and out of general fund, or what's the outlook for that one?
Yeah, the position actually is currently vacant, and so those funds will be going back to general fund. I don't have plans on filling that position. I don't have any problem freezing that position.
Okay.
The staff are already gearing up to cover in the meantime, and they've done it before. Yeah.
Okay.
Supervisor Owen.
Okay, the salaries, you're stating that you need to be fully staffed basically to get the maximum funding. Those salaries, who pays those salaries? Does that come from the county, or are those covered from the state?
Nearly all of our positions are federally and state funded. The one position in Section 8, as mentioned, that is vacant and that we will be returning the funds to general fund was previously county funded. 2 of the positions in public guardian, public administrator are funded by general fund. That is a county mandated program. We don't receive any state or federal funding for that. There are more than 2 positions. We use flexible funding to cover the rest of the costs.
Okay, and then I noticed that the biggest increases are on budget numbers 5334 and 5335, and that is state admin program, AFDC FG-U, and that went up about over tripled. So it went from 932,000 to 3,030,000, as well as the 5335 went up from less than $500,000 to over $1 million. So is there an explanation on those? Is that because we're getting less from the state, or what's the?
Kelly will address it.
So in our budget previously, we had a program, HSP, Housing Support Program, and our allocation was in a different account. We have put that allocation into this account where it is more appropriate to be seated. That's why that funding is so much higher. And we also had to put some of our CalWORks single allocation into that account. So we shifted from one account to that one. That's the explanation for that one. The other one, this one was a little tricky this year. Based on what we knew as far as the state budget at the time we compiled the information, the outlook for child welfare was that the workload changes and the increased caseload projections were going to result in an increased allocation for that program. And this budget does reflect that. If at final budget this doesn't turn out to be true, we will definitely adjust the revenue appropriately, but when we compiled, that was our best projection based on the information we had.
Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, I appreciate the budgets. I don't have any specific issues or concerns. It's just, I guess, a general conversation in the sense of the impacts of HR 1 and everything else coming down. I see you reducing your staff force while everyone else is claiming to be preparing for more work, and I know you have a large amount of vacancies, and so that would be able to fill in right there. Which actually, from yesterday's comments, is at its ultimate low that I've ever heard of. I'm not looking to add anything because we all know where it would come from if we added stuff, and I feel like we have enough, and not enough, but we have reserves for critical issues that come up, but I don't see anything changing within your budgets or any request on how to shield ourselves Or again, is it that we're using what shields we've already created and it's just a conversation we've already had? I'm just not hearing the conversation, which I think is highly necessary in a budgetary conversation to have, because the costs, I mean, we did stuff when SNAP was postponed for 2 or 3 months. That was a preparation for a much larger concern that's coming up. And so I'm going to have the same conversation with health services about indigent care. Where is that in the budget? I just want to have that conversation with you because I know because of going to CSAC, I know Vice Chair Pyska and I have been provided all of the material to advocate. You have 2 years worth of reserves potentially for SNAP unless the Farm Bill has changed that or the ongoing discussions may have changed that. But I'm still very concerned about some of the most vulnerable populations and what is our plan when we're looking at our budgets and preparing for that.
A lot of it hinges on what happens with the state budget. And I did check this morning and they have not finalized. If it is finalized as legislature has recommended, we're going to be in a better position than previously anticipated. That would be great news. For Medi-Cal and CalFresh, what's latest proposed is additional one-time funding with authorization to spend over 3 years. So I wouldn't be looking to increase staffing without consistent funding. I would be looking at increasing overtime, which staff are very willing to do. I have currently put the kibosh on overtime, and that is how we have historically met spikes in workload. But first, I have directed staff to look at filling our vacancies because it is less expensive to pay somebody straight time in a full-time position as opposed to overtime. So that is our strategy around staffing right now. It just kind of hinges on what happens at the state level, but I don't anticipate being able to add additional staff to meet the workload demands. So far as benefit issuance towards the public goes, none of my funding is flexible enough for me to supplement what is being done at the state or federal level. So we are left with advocacy in implementing those changes. I'm engaging in some advocacy around the Farm Bill right now. There is some push to reduce the admin passed on to states, which subsequently creates an admin passed on to counties, and that's looking really hopeful right now. So just keeping an eye on things, hoping for the best, and moving rapidly when we can to shift. The state budget did also include funding for CMSP and indigent care, so if it passes as recommended by legislature, we'll be looking okay for that for a year. I think that was everything. Did I miss any?
And at this moment, eligibility, the doubling up of the workload is just continued as is within the confines of what we have in front of us?
So we're waiting for CMS guidance and state guidance on implementation, and that partially hinges on what the workload will look like for us. CMS just released their draft guidance a couple weeks ago, and it's in review, 45-day review for feedback, and the state and CWDA are analyzing that in order to give directions to counties on how to implement. As much as possible, the state will try and automate processes, but it's a really short timeline for automation, particularly if how we have guessed CMS is going to direct us to implement is not how CMS ultimately directs us. So it's a short timeline. We're going to look at automation, and if we can't, it's possible if funding allows, we may need additional positions or 900-hour positions. We are going to engage with our partners in the community as much as possible to just assist the public. They cannot complete the actual redeterminations. That has to be done by an eligibility specialist. But we will be having a meeting with the local hospitals. I'm going to offer everybody the opportunity to have an application assister login through Benefits Cal. And through Benefits Cal, you can help people file their paperwork, complete their redeterminations. If any of our nonprofits or partners out there want to provide that assistance and helping people remain eligible for Medi-Cal because it's mutually beneficial. We're going to go that route too. We're talking with behavioral health and public health about that too.
Supervisor Crandall.
I'm good.
And then appreciate your support on the hiring freeze. Just, there will be a procedure. I mean, that's what we've talked about, so that's what I anticipate if we approve that, then there'd be a procedure to go through a process for departments. So if we don't have any other comments right now, I'll open it to the public for any of the social services budgets. Do we have anybody in the room? Not seeing any. Do we have anyone online? No. Then I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board.
All right,
Go
I'll
ahead.
do it. IHSS, governor's trying to propose putting and shifting some of the funding on counties.
Yes, in a very terrible way, and the legislature has said reject all three options, and if all three are rejected, we're looking good. If
Right.
they are not rejected, we're looking in trouble. If they pass on the increased hours pass on, that is a big ticket item. It's about $700,000 a year that would have to come out of our realignment. So that's the one to push back against is the, it's essentially, they will be doing like a statewide average on IHSS hours authorized, and anything above that, the county will be fully responsible for covering the cost of those hours. And I think it goes without saying that means counties will be much more stringent in what hours they are able to approve. So it's just overall a bad thing for the community, for counties. The legislature did reject that, so
Right.
I'm hoping that will be rejected in the governor's final budget.
Good. I know that CSAC and RCRC are pushing back as well, but just wanted to highlight that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That is a very important one.
Thank you, Supervisor. So I'll go ahead and I already called public comment, and there was no one in the room, no one online, so bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve budget units 5011, 5012, 5121, 5125, 5164, 5165, 5168, 5281, and 5282.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. And before break, if good, I'm going to handle one more. Yeah.
Register of voters.
What's that?
Register of
Yeah.
voters.
So I'm going to call Registrar of Voters for the next one. And this will be for their budget, Unit 1451. And we'll have our Registrar, Maria Valdez, here to present. Morning.
Good morning. Maria Valadez, Registrar of Voters. Thank you for having me here today and accommodating my schedule. I appreciate it. Thank you, Casey and Stephen. Budget 1451, there's no changes from what was submitted. The department, the Registrar of Voters oversees the federal, state, local, and all special elections in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. We maintain voter registration data with the re-registrations, new registrations, updates, cancellations. We process and verify candidate filings and oversee campaign finance filings. We review and process statewide and local initiatives, referendums, and recall petitions. And we engage in voter registration and voter education activities, attending community events. We are a general funded department, so there is no outside sources to offset any of the costs, other than if there's any districts that consolidate with the election and then reimburse for their portion of the cost of the election.
There are some contracts sometimes that we get for HAVA and state grants to offset some costs for elections, like cybersecurity, physical security, and one of the contracts that we currently have is for voting system upgrades, or to help with some of the voting system components, which will go away this fiscal year, at the end of this fiscal year. I do want to say that we did purchase 10 poll pads. With some of that money we'll be utilizing to help with the rosters at the polling places. So instead of having a paper roster at some locations, we'll have an e-roster, which will reduce the calls into the office, because they'll be able to verify that a voter is registered at that location and won't have to call in, and hopefully reduce the incoming calls on election day that we sometimes have a difficulty trying to answer. We only have, so many staff and answering those calls. So that'll be very helpful to us. So we'll get 75% of that cost reimbursed to the county. And I'll use the HAVA money on some of the other to get the rest of the cost. That was a little over $38,000 that the cost was for those. So let's see. The expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year, mostly are composed of salaries and benefits and the election operations, which includes the ballots, the sample ballot booklets, and polling place, the contract for hiring poll workers. So, and then we do our election management system and the voting system annual license and software that we have to maintain for what we have, as well as our remote accessible system that we're required to provide. Let's see. The plan for this upcoming fiscal year, we have one election scheduled for this upcoming fiscal year, which is the November 26th general election. Candidate filing will begin shortly after we certify this June election, and that begins 113 days. I know the numbers, but I can't think of the date right off the top of my head, sorry. We'll be recruiting more poll workers and to help with that time period. Let's see, what else do I have? Sorry. This election, we actually attended a couple of outreach events during election, which was a little hard, but we went ahead and did that because I think it was useful to the public to see us out there during election cycle, so they could ask questions if they had any. Most of them were school events, but the kids were very receptive to that, and we handed out poll worker flyers, and hopefully they can come back and help in November. I'd like to thank Supervisor Rasmussen for the intern position. We'll be filling it here shortly. It was during the election time, so we weren't able to fill that just quite yet, but we're working on that, and we'll be hiring the young girl that will be helping us at least through August. We did hire another intern in the meantime to help, because she was able to get on board a little bit sooner. So I think that concludes my part of the budget, but I would like to take the opportunity to thank staff. We had a big deadline that we had to meet yesterday. After 13 days after the election, we had to count all our vote by mail ballots. So 91% of our voters vote by mail, the ballot that's mailed to them. So that was a big push and a big turnaround. And we had to have extra help come in, like always, to help with that. And it was a big push, but we did it. I know that my staff is wanting a vacation here shortly, but they're just going to have to wait till after the general election, because they'll get a couple of days off here, but I think we'll be able to be off this weekend. So I want to thank them. They really push through all the time, our extra help. We will be losing one of our extra help employees after this election, which I'm hoping I'm still going to be able to replace her position. I understand about the hiring freezes, but without extra help, there's no possible way we could get all that we do done in that short period of time. So I will be reaching out to admin to ask how I can go about that. I mean, I will wait to hire until closer, but not too close, because then it becomes too close and then we don't have time to train them while we're busy working. So I would like to fill that position as soon as we can. So again, thanking my staff. It's really important to know that they work really hard. They put in a lot of hours, and I don't have the hours in front of me, but I want to say between the two staff members that are hourly, they put in almost 200 hours of overtime between May 4th through yesterday's date. So that gave them one Sunday off after election, and just this last Sunday that they were off. And then, not counting us, management, we were there with them too. So thank you to Lourdes also for being there with staff. And Buildings and Grounds manages our drop boxes. So thank you to them for allowing us for having them set them up and have that for the voters. That was really used this election. I want to say that we had a big return the last couple of days by election. People utilized the drop boxes. I thank you guys for allowing us to have one outside the courthouse. And the libraries and child services, it's a really big hit now, and I think people are starting to utilize that more now, more so or is equal to the mailing of the ballots. So we did use Woodland, Yuba Community College as a polling place this election, so I think that was a very good move. It was closer for some people, so thank you for that suggestion on finding something closer on that side also. So Supervisor Sabatier, I think we discussed that. So I don't have anything else to say other than I think our department works really hard, staff members work really hard, and the poll workers, without them, we wouldn't have the polling places. So thank you to all of those volunteers that come in and work that very long day. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from board members at this point? Not seeing any, I'll open it up to the public. Do we have anybody in the room? Anybody online? I'll bring it back to the board. Just quickly, I wanted to thank you for being out at all the outreach events. I've seen you guys out in the community, and it's important to try to keep encouraging people to vote. So thank you. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for, you have a small and mighty group of people. They're not all staff that makes these things happen, and your budget does not have some of the increases that I see in some of the others, and just want to appreciate the fact that you keep doing the work that you do and ask for modest increases, and so happy to approve.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Budget Unit 1451.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0. And we're going to take our morning break. We'll call our meeting back to order. Before I start the next one, I just wanted to announce we have to have a hard stop no later than 5:30 PM today, so I just want to let people know that. And next, we're going to move on to all of the budget units under special districts. I'll read those off. Lighting districts, 8210 through 8219 and 8461. Lands End, 8351, Corinthian Bay, 8352, Middletown Sanitation District, 8353, Southeast Regional System, 8354, Northwest Regional System, 8355, Anderson Springs Sewer, 8356, CSA number 2, Spring Valley Campground, 8460, CSA 2 Spring Valley, 8462, CSA 6 Finley, 8466, CSA 13 Conotee, 8473, CSA 20 Soda Bay Water, 8480, CSA 21 North Lakeport, 8481, Kelseyville Waterworks, 8593, and Special Districts Administration, 8695, and I'll turn it over to Director Bore for presentation on these units.
Good morning, board, staff, and residents. I'm Robin Borey, your Special District Administrator, and Jesse Salmeron, our Deputy of Fiscal, is here as well to present our budget and review any questions that you may have. So as we're just read off, we have 9 different streetlight districts. We have 4 wastewater plants and 2 additional districts that discharge 2 other wastewater plants. One goes to Kelseyville, one goes to the city of Lakeport. We have 6 water districts, and I would like to point out that our capital projects that are in progress will be rolled over, and that will be shown in final budget as well. Our total budget is about $39.3 million, $39.4 made up of almost $6 million of grants. There's $1 million in geyser funding from the geyser pipeline and improvements they're requesting. And we have about $2.1 million in new CIP projects that we'll be discussing. So this is an overview by district to how we come up with the $39.4 million. You can see that the wastewater systems are large districts. Spring Valley Water, I want to point out that it's not really a $4.1 million budget. There is $3.6 million worth of grant funding running through there, and that's for the 2 Wolf Creek bridges that Public Works is working on with us. And so some of the existing projects that we're working on, we have the Spring Valley Lake Recovery Project. It's a grant-funded project. And that one is expected, we just got the plans yesterday. We expect to go to bid. We have to have some portion of that construction done by the end of December. So we are on track to do that. The I&I reduction project is going to also be completed by December with some, part of that is the Live Oak Water Project that is under construction right now in Kelseyville. And then we have the 2 wells that we have completed in North Lakeport and in Spring Valley. We're working very diligently on the Spring Valley Water Distribution System grant. So right now we're in the feasibility design study right now. We are closing that out by the end of June. And then we'll move into the construction phase. So we'll see, that's an outstanding grant that we're working on with the State Water Resource Control Board. And hopefully with the hopes of replacing all of the distribution lines and installing pressure zones and another tank, and then fixing the roads if we cut them up. We are working on the power resiliency project. We have 11 generators that were funded through that. Due to tariffs and a bunch of other things, it took a very long time for those generators to arrive. They have all arrived and are on site. We've been working with air quality to get the construction permits, and they are all eligible to operate. So we're working through those as they're installing those. And they
go to various areas, some water, some wastewater, and some wells in Kelseyville. The Full Circle Affluent Pipeline Project, we expect to have the final draft of that by December. Staff did receive comments and sent comments back. And then we have grant funding to replace the remaining 2 redwood tanks in Kelseyville, which we will bringing the design contract to the board. I believe it's next week, or the first week of July. And then we have the ARPA money that we had for the tertiary plant study. We did get that. It's under final review. We've also shared that with our state partners who are working on technical assistance with us to see about the feasibility of that. We're working on the Northwest Septic Station construction. We expect to have that done by December. We're roughly about 90% in design right now. We're waiting for the final electrical permit, electrical engineering that will go with that. And our engineering consultants are working with our plant operators to get final information and make sure everything is where everybody wanted it. The sewer modeling project, we started with Southeast, limited funding, so we started with Southeast being the critical sewer model that we needed to do. It's in progress. They are literally having to rebuild it. These kind of models are kind of proprietary software, and so when you update your model, you either continue with the same vendor and they update it from there, or they gather the data that they had, but then they have to kind of re-enter it all. So the original vendor did not bid on the project, so Belgian and Race is diligently working on that with us. They're reviewing all of our as-builds and making sure all of the data is uploaded correctly. And then they will be working on our water model. And so some of our outstanding grant applications, we're working with the state on the Kelseyville Water Consolidation, Soda Bay, Finley, Rivieras, in that area, as well as the Kelseyville Wastewater Consolidation, which is Corinthian Bay, Soda Bay, some of the Rivieras, and they're also looking at the tertiary study to give us some technical assistance on the feasibility of that. And the Southeast wastewater plant improvements and the 2 lift stations, we're waiting to hear on the earmarks. Congressman Thompson did submit, I believe, $3.5 million in earmark funding for us, as well as we're working with Senator McGuire on state funding possibly for that. In the meantime, we are looking at preliminary design for that project so that we can make sure that we can separate the pipes and determine any other needs that will need to be done there. We are working with USDA on the disaster grants. They're going to give us $440,000 for additional generators. We met with the Spring Valley and North Lake Park community to ensure that, yes, they were still interested in generators. The community overwhelmingly supports having a backup generator replaced at the water plant and community center, which will also aid in that being a resiliency center. And then some lift stations on the northwest wastewater system further away than, because we can't have, like a middle generator go on if all the lift stations kind of have to line up. So the community is in support of all of those. And so we're finalizing those documents. And the Middletown wastewater plant improvements, that project has been sitting in the funding queue for quite some time. It's still an unfunded project, but we are still pushing to get those improvements when funding is available. And I already touched on the Spring Valley distribution construction grants. We are hoping to get about $80,000 per connection up to. So that's a huge redo of the entire Spring Valley water system and making that a completely reliable system. Currently, due to the high pressures, the mains, we have sometimes 2 or 3 main breaks in Spring Valley a week. So this will go along.
What's the timeline on that grant?
So by June 30, we submit all of the preliminary documents, which was the engineering study, identifying, tank locations, about 60% plans, the preliminary environmental of this is what environmental will entail. And then I would expect in the next 6 months we will be finalizing the construction portion of that and hopefully being able to secure those funds in the next 6 to 9 months. And so our current project status of existing projects that we're working on, some of these will be carried over. The utility relocation adjustments in Southeast, some of those have been paid as they complete their projects. Those funds are in the CIP and will be carried over. They're looking at trying a new kind of real-time meter reading, and their pilot project would be in Kono. That we haven't had time to actually implement that. So now that we're fully staffed on the water CMOM and staff that assists that person, we are hoping to get that pilot project moving. We're getting quotes for the security cameras at Northwest. A lot of those goes to lift stations where we have homeless or unhoused people break into the areas, and that's very dangerous for anybody to enter those. They could fall in the pit and it could be very detrimental. The Paradise Cove lift station rehab, that's to line the 3 lift stations. That's in design with the slip lining for Kelseyville project. So part of that's I&I funding, part of it is Northwest funding. The Kono upgrade to the tank number 2, the pump and the cover, to put a cover over it, that has been delayed but is still in the queue to be worked on. And the well number 2 upgrades, that is also will be part of that project. And then the resealing of the asphalt, we're hoping to have that done this summer. And the plant headwork project, we just touched on that. That is in preliminary design now. We've held off on the screening project because that may go with the headwork project. The screens pull off some of the material that comes through the plant, and so that may be part of the headworks overall project. And the treatment plant Vallejo lift station is on hold, as well as the Highlands pump station is on hold, pending the purchase of the property and the outcome of what happens with the city of Clear Lake. The Highlands lift station is fully designed at this point, so it's shovel ready. And all of those are tied up into the earmark money as well with the congressmen and the senators. And we have ordered the 400 kW generator for Southeast, and we ordered it in 2025, and the lead time on those is a very long time. So we're checking in, and they expect it to be delivered hopefully this summer, and then that will be replaced. The lift station number 2 ceiling is underway. The SCADA project, we were hoping to get a consultant to respond to our last RFPs, and they did not. So we'll be seeking another consultant opportunity for somebody to do a complete evaluation of all of our SCADA so that we can then get all the districts and all the sites on the same SCADA and make it accessible instead of having to actually go to the different plants. And then the chlorine analyzer, chart recorder, ozone upgrades, the POs have been issued for Soda Bay, and we expect those to be completed over the next 3 to 4 months. And then our upcoming CIP projects that we're going to be discussing is the Soda Bay raw water pump. It's a small project, but to replace the raw water pump. Replace and rebuild the system. It's for the water system. There's some pressure reducing valves in Soda Bay that need to be replaced. And then the air release valves on the wastewater systems, we call those ARVs. Those are on the force main lines. And the water tank rehab in North Lakeport that needs to be done. And I know that yesterday there was some discussion about the software system, so I wanted to discuss that as well. I guess it was last week we talked about the CMMS system and what would be needed for, that's a state requirement, and So when I came, we were looking at, Workday, and it was determined that Workday didn't do a lot of the stuff that we needed. The billing, utility billing was not included in that, as well as the CMMS, which is an asset management system. And what we really need is a fully integrated system that ties in our GIS, our CMMS that's required by state law, and our utility billing that's currently done in CAMS and is very antiquated and doesn't have a lot of functionality that we really should have. So when I was in Stockton, the city of Stockton, we did a very detailed needs assessment of a fully functioning financial system for the city. The city population 300,000, so county size at least, and they were on a HTE. What do you guys, Naviline that you guys call it, the same green screen old system that the county is currently running. We did a complete assessment of all the different departments, what would be needed to get everything, including utility billing. They have everything. We had solid waste and stuff like that in my department. And so we did that complete analysis and then did an RFP. And we did do a full analysis of Workday and Tyler Financial. And as Workday would do stuff like general fund departments would need, and they like some of the customizations that they could do, the city did go with Tyler because of the special revenue departments, the utility billing, the one-stop shop, that kind of stuff. So I am very familiar with both software packages. And we did do another update. I did look and see what Workday could offer us. And basically, for utility billing, they would be getting a third party. So they would be getting another software package that would integrate. And they would do asset management, but it's more of a listing versus something that does our work orders and integrates fully and tracks our assets and ties it into GIS, as well as ties in our CIP projects. So when we improve project pipelines and stuff, that would automatically be integrated in everything. So we have done a deep dive into that, and we reached out to IT. And we will be going to the technology committee as of yesterday to give them an update. When this goes to there, we will give them a full presentation. We'll have the vendor come and show them all the functionality. Additionally, it also has all of the dashboards that allows for a lot of transparency so that everybody can see in real time what's going on and what's being done in the different areas. So we'll have more on that, hopefully to come very soon. Some additional things that are in our upcoming budgets are our rate studies. So we did issue a 5-year contract. We have gone through the Lands End. That is complete. Lands End South Lakeport has been completed. The user fees for the department, currently we don't have really any way to capture time and materials for costs such as like plan review, permit reviews, permit issuance. Inspections are only $50. Our mainline extensions are very, very cheap as well. So we aren't catching the cost of what those activities should be. So that should be coming back. We were hoping to get it in the master fee schedule, but that will be coming back once that's finalized. And then Southeast system has been completed. We did present that. We will be making some adjustments to see about smoothing some of those beginning spikes. And we were directed to hold off until July to September. So we'll be checking with Supervisor Sabatier as to the timing on that. But plan on moving forward. And then upcoming rates for 26-27, we're looking at Corinthian Bay wastewater, Finley water, Conotehe water, and Soda Bay water. Those are some of the districts that haven't been updated. Like Corinthian Bay hasn't been updated since '95, so that's in dire need, as well as Finley hasn't been done since 2003, Cono since 2010, and Soda Bay since 2011. So we're trying to get them all on a 5-year cycle. So those are the ones that we're planning on doing next year. And we're also going to continue to look at the consolidations and where we can consolidate smaller districts into larger districts and get some of the magnitude of scale for ratepayers, as well as working on the technical assistance projects. So those are our highlights, and we're here to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
All right, do we have any, we'll start with Supervisor Owen?
I'll let him go first.
Okay, Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think we need to have a internal conversation on the Highland thing. Unfortunately, there's been some changes that have occurred, but I'd like to see how it is that we can find ways to move forward on that. It's needed. It's been needed since the occupancy was provided to the apartments. So I have concerns as to what our timeline is. I would like to review what we're planning there. Let me go to my notes here. Thank you for the finance software for at least speaking on that and hearing the direction to go to the technology group. I don't know what the answer is, but I am glad that you have done what appears to be your due diligence on what fits. The CMMS part, which obviously I don't want to put any kind of delays on after the conversation we just had just recently. Is that a part of the package, or is it a like an add-on, a module that adds on to it that just kind of communicates together, or it's all part of the same package?
Yeah, so Tyler Financial is a true government software package. It is pretty much the only one that is solely geared to government software. So it has all the best practices in there, and each one of them are basically a module. So you can add and subtract modules as you need. And so when we go to the technology committee, we'll talk about implementation and the order of that. And if, I believe that we can get just the CMMS, but it really doesn't make sense for us not to get at least the billing, the CIP, and the CMMS, asset management, grant management stuff all together. And so that's why they are technically separate modules. So it is also possible that once we have the interface with Workday, that other departments could, they have a permitting module. They have, every module you can imagine. So there may be other options for other departments that don't have software or that are looking that Workday can't meet to move into there as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if it was a possibility of a separate connection or not, but that doesn't sound like that is the case. So I did want to talk a little bit about the finances. I have a feeling that these will change. I know for a fact that since you sent us an email, that next week you'll be talking about kind of the reconciliation of your reserves. Right now it shows something like $1,072,000 some odd dollars. That should go down to zero, if I understand correctly, if I remember the email correctly.
Correct. That is for the sewer, Robin Lane sewer spill response.
Southeast specifically.
Southeast specific, and it will bring down our operation reserve down to that, to basically zero, starting out the year. That is the difference. There is a difference. We have a capacity reserve that is for capital projects, and
it has something like 700,000 odd dollars in there, maybe 750. I did have a question for that.
And that's after we put in our projects for the CIP. And so that when you look at fund balance.
So you mean it reduced?
Yeah, so when you look at fund balance, I mean, it looks like we have all kinds of cash.
Yeah, 2.7 million. I was gonna get there.
And so that's basically our cash flow. So, like everybody, knows, okay, well, this is how much I make every year. This is how much my rent is. This is how much all this stuff, and they come up with their discretionary dollars. So we have, out of that, cash flow, we keep that so that we can pay our bills and do that. But we have allocated those funds to either operating budgets, capital projects, that kind of stuff. So I have a 5-year look ahead on all of our funds so that I can make sure that we pull things back, or we can, when we can actually fund projects and stuff like that. So, yeah, so it's, the capital reserve is going down because we are actually moving forward with projects. In the past, projects had been budgeted, and if they weren't done, then they just kind of went away. And so we've identified our critical projects that will be multi-year and continue over. So that's what happens to the capital reserve and how we really don't have money, but it looks like we have a lot.
And it appeared to me, based on at least the numbers that are preliminary right here, because they're not finalized, they're kind of estimates. You have 2.7 in fund balance carryover. I believe the difference between your expenditures and your revenues anticipated is about 1 million. It will leave you with about $1 million at the end of the year, which will be, again, for your cash flow, is what you're talking about. I just kind of wanted to walk through it and just put it out there, just for the sake of everybody understanding where we are. I know that was a lot of work, which I'm guessing was completely altered by the sewer spill that occurred, where last year there was something like 1.4, 1.2 million for I&I, and that's nowhere to be seen. I don't believe there was $1.2 million worth of I&I capital project work done last year. Is it not on this? Because what it
So
was
that-
before, it was slowly decreasing as work was slowly done over the past like 5 years. Is that not there because there's the affordability of it due to the spill, or is it done?
That I&I is a grant, and it has several components, projects to that. And so so we did the line cleaning crew. So some of it wasn't actual capital improvements, but it was, like we had the line cleaning crew last year, that used that. There's the Kelseyville, water line.
It was for Southeast specific.
It was, that's kind of a misnomer. When I got here, I contacted them, and it was countywide.
Okay.
And so, so they did start working a lot in Southeast. They bought a lot of the dog bowl lids. They did a lot of other kinds of things in there. Jesse can probably chime in as to all the different things, but I know that there's the Live Oak project in there. We're going to have the slip lining in Kelseyville, which we're combining with the Northwest Paradise project. That money is Northwest funding, but the slip lining in Kelseyville is as out of that I&I money. We did design the harbor area with that funding, and that project turned out to be $1.5 million, which was more than the grant was. So we do know what is needed down there, but don't have the funding for that.
You're talking about the Highlands Harbor area?
And then they bought we bought the SL Rats, which is the tool we use for the I&I guys and staff to go out to assess the lines and which ones need to be cleaned, and some of that assessment stuff. And we bought a VACON, and that was like $500,000. So
thank you for that. I guess my last question, I have two more questions. I know that we utilize a lot of pumper trucks. I know that there's been public comment about our pumper trucks. Where is that specifically in our budget? Is that in the professional specialized services, administrative services, or like where does it sit? And it would be nice to understand what is that separately, to better also understand what does a fix for the system cost versus this continuous cost of pumper trucks, so I could better understand what we're spending money on.
So that comes out of 2380, the object code, so professional services. In our operational budget, there's a specific line in there that says pumper trucks. And we track that with a separate code in our system so we can see how much is being spent on pumper trucks.
Guessing that number is going to grow compared to what I'm seeing here, because
well, it's spread amongst all of the different areas as well. So
it's not based on a per system basis.
Well, each system has funding in there, is what I'm saying. That, but then when we have an extraordinary event like the Robin Lane, that of course obviously blew that budget out of the water, and that was a significant cost that you guys will see when it comes back to you next week. When we itemize out how much that cost was, I want to say it was $600,000 or something like that in bumper truck costs. It was a huge dollar. And, you know, and those are emergencies. They're 24 hours turnaround, you know, they're running. So they, you know, they charge emergency time and overtime hours for those. We also are looking at the ability to buy our own pumper truck. So when we have maintenance items or, you know, small things, like when we just had a contractor hit a force main in the Kelseyville, Soda Bay area in the north, in Chair Rasmussen's area, we had to call a pumper truck just to make sure that we didn't spill. That's a precaution because, you know, that's part of our response. If we had our own, we could have had that person respond there and monitor the lift station for us. So we are looking at the ability for us to get our own, maybe one on both ends of the lake, so that we can then cut down on a lot of those service calls. When we do lift station repairs, a lot of times we have to call pumper trucks as well, just to keep up so that we can repair, you know, because we have to shut down the lift stations to do stuff. So we are looking at options, and yeah, we are aware of how much it costs.
The amount that you're spending. So, sorry, two more things. One, you're buying more generators. I know we had a air quality control report, and I know those are mostly based on older generators, so these new generators may not be of the same pollution rating or whatever. But is there any hopes for battery storage? I know we did some during COVID. We did a lot of Tesla batteries. I don't know how great they are for operating for the amount of electricity you need, but just wondering if that's something that is being looked at versus just normal generator, diesel running stuff that is unfortunately not looking good when we have those reports coming from our air quality control.
Yeah, so we're working very closely with air quality on our generators. Some of the new air quality requirements are portable generators. They used to be exempt and not require permits, and now they require permits. So we're expecting that a lot of those are not going to be attainable. I'm also looking at propane ran generators and alternative fuel source generators in the, you know, where they have natural gas. That's something that when I was in Rio Vista, we hooked up to natural gas because the emissions are much lower. But we will be looking at making sure that we can get alternative sources when possible, so that they're cleaner burning. And we're looking at stationary generators as well. So then they automatically come on, and it saves in a lot of staff time, response time, ensuring that the system continues to operate.
And then just my last comment, your salary increase for the normal special districts admin has a huge increase. I'm not sure if that's over exaggerated on just being safe on what your potential cost will be. Your last actuals are much lower, but in comparison even to what was estimated last year, and you're not adding any positions that I'm seeing. So it's just a strange occurrence. I've seen some of the larger ones, and I know that we provided raises back in July of last year. The ones that were the highest raises, I recognize those in those departments. Sorry, it was not your department, but
they were significant.
I'm seeing a huge increase, and I guess that leads to concerns of taking away from the bottom line of being able to operate the infrastructure itself and maintain the infrastructure itself. Granted, you do have a rate study coming up in a few months. Just wanted to make that statement, and the last one is, it doesn't really show, but you are going through a whole lot of grants. We unfortunately did not get the CDBG grant from what I was told.
Correct.
But we don't get every grant we try for, but I know we've been attempting to get a lot of stuff. We're working with our federal partners, we're working with our state partners, and I appreciate the work that goes into that in attempting to get the funding to be able to do the maintenance and operation on the system. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, so on the staffing, I want to point out that last year we added the I&I crew. to the maintenance crew. So we added 5 full-time employees to, and that's really all they're doing is going from system to system. They're obviously starting in Southeast. So I expect that those will, move from district to district as needed. So we budget, and then as the staff fill out their dailies, they're actually charged to whichever district they're working in. And so we had a lot of salary savings in the past, and then and so you wouldn't see those costs until next fiscal year because we just recently filled a lot of those positions. We do have 3 full-time and 1 extra help position open right now, that we're kind of slow rolling, looking for the best people, and reassessing as to, what can be shifted and that kind of stuff, with the understanding of what's going on with the general fund, possible, if we can help in any way. So that's an extra help inspector position, which we are having either our capital project manager inspect or our superintendents. It's usually like development kind of stuff, connection stuff, which is right within their wheelhouse. And then we haven't filled our staff analyst position. We recently promoted somebody to a staff analyst senior position to help with the implementation of the software and to get our technology where it needs to be, replacing our customer service supervisor. And we have our capital project manager that we have 1 potential candidate that we are reaching out to do interviews on. And then our deputy director position, which we have 1 application in, but we're not moving forward right now on that position. So we're looking at, where we can save and where we can adjust stuff.
And I apologize.
And all the positions in the budget are fully funded. That's, so
Right,
there was, and if Jesse wants to chime in on any of that.
I think it's just this is probably just the raises from last year. That's the big difference. What I get here is the full salary report from the auditor's office, and that's what I end up inputting on the budget.
Yeah, and I think we fully allocated the amounts last year too, because the position allocation as of last year was 55 as well as this year. The last thing, I'm not too enamored by the capital improvement plan that we had done, since most of the things were on the 5-year trajectory rather than, and I get it that with what happened in the emergency, it took away a lot of funding to be able to make it happen immediately. But just my hopes and desires is we can move some of those projects, because just the headworks alone is not enough for what needs to happen there. So let's keep working on that.
Yeah, so that's intentional, having all those projects in the out year, making sure that they're in our plan. It makes them eligible for other grant funding. It identifies that these are our priority projects. So it helps us, 1, identify here's all of our needs, as well as here's the funding that we need to go after. Yes, it is our intent whenever possible to move them forward, but we are adamant that, we need them in the plan. That's why there's so many of them showing unfunded, but we need to keep moving forward on pulling those forward whenever, if we can.
Supervisor Rowan?
Thank you. 2 quick questions, and I should know this, but I don't. Where's Corinthian Bay and Conona?
Conatehi?
Uh-huh.
So Conatehi is over by Upper Lake, between Upper Lake and like Lucerne area,
Lucerne.
up on the hill.
Okay.
It's a very small kind of community. I think there's 140 connections over there, and they tie into the Northwest wastewater system, but they have their own separate water system. And then Corinthian Bay is in the Soda Bay, Kelseyville area.
Okay.
It's also a very, very small
Just so I have-
district, kind of by Finley.
Most of them were pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so looking at the budget, I noticed the lighting district, I had mentioned to you about replacing street lights, and I think I mentioned to you at that time, I know that there's still some out in Middletown, I had replaced some, but I had mentioned to you about looking into doing the replacements with LEDs or something to save us money. I know that the entire lighting district throughout the county is just under 200,000. So I don't know how much that would save by replacing with the LEDs or looking at other options that might save a little bit. Just
Yeah, and so the problem with the lighting district, and I'm kind of glad you bring that up, because we have a whole bunch of independent lighting districts. We don't have a countywide lighting district. And they all require, it's not the same as a Prop 218 process. You actually have to hire an engineer. He has to stamp the assessment. It goes on the property taxes. So those are expensive studies to do. And then the property owners have to vote on them to increase any of the rates. So like Middletown, I want to say Middletown has a couple $1,000s left in the fund. Basically, we can pay for some of the operations. A lot of the ones in Kelseyville or in Middletown are owned and we own them, but they're operated and maintained by PG&E. So there's some districts, you know, like EJ in Supervisor Crandall's area, Clear Lake Oaks and Clear Lake Keys. We're looking at trying to consolidate those. One is a very robust district and one is not. But it's very problematic about being able to do the engineer report and then get the community to actually vote. It's not a Prop 218 protest kind of vote. They actually have to vote.
I didn't know if the lights themselves could just be changed out like we do our.
And I did. They
When you
did
replace-
go throughout and change some of the fixtures.
Something
They
more
can't just change the light bulbs. They'd have to change the fixtures.
I see, okay.
And so PG&E did have a lot of that energy saving kind of funding that they were going out and doing. But I don't think that I've seen on some of the bills that there still are some high pressure sodium lights. And so whenever we can, that we also look for the California Energy Department, the Department of Energy through the state, sometimes has grant funding to replace those kind of things. So we've been monitoring to see if we can get some of that. I'm cautious about going and getting loans for the lighting districts due to the fiscal sustainability of them. But if we look to see if we can get grants to replace light bulbs and fixtures and stuff as well.
Next, Full Circle, you said that we have the bid or whatever, the design should be coming forward in the end of the year?
Yeah, so the Full Circle, that's not really cool, quote unquote, it's not connecting the pipeline into a full circle. It would be
The engineering?
the feasibility, it's just a feasibility study, so it's not even the design of connecting the city of Lakeport and Kelseyville wastewater systems and sending the affluent pipeline up, creating a new affluent pipeline to go up to the geysers on a different track. It wouldn't connect to the existing system. It would go up another direction. And so it's a feasibility study to see, is it feasible? What's the best route? What would it take? And that kind of stuff. It's kind of preliminary engineering to see about doing that.
And is the reason we would be building that much more pipeline to take it up a second route, is it because the capacity is not within the current system?
It's not so much as a capacity in the system thing. I know the city of Lakeport currently still uses sprinklers. So they sprinkle their affluent, which can be problematic in the wintertime. And then Kelseyville, it's goes up onto the Canocti ponds, and we don't have an issue with the perk ponds up there overflowing or anything in the wintertime, but it's just another option of, you know, ways to send funding, water to the geysers to increase energy and a discharge of.
Well, I understand all that. What I'm asking is, why wouldn't we tap into the current line right here? If we're taking it from Lakeport and we have a line right here in Lakeport, why would we build another several miles of line up to the geothermal geysers instead of
that may be that may be one of the options that they're looking at, but either way, it's miles of pipeline going from where it discharges now in up on Canocti all the way around to northwest. And then we would also they would also be looking at if that reservoir is large enough to take on the additional flows.
The capacity. Okay, Middletown Sewer Project upgrade, what is that specifically on? What are we looking at?
I know it's a $5 million upgrade. Do you know it's to the treatment plant itself? So I don't know exactly what was in that grant, since the funding has been on hold, so I haven't really dug into that, but it's still sitting there as a need, to improve the plant.
Okay, is it the plant or does it
The
have
plant.
anything to do with the ponds?
The ponds is part of the plant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was worried about leakage is the reason why. Let me see. Have you, I know that we have a new congressman that is in your district. I met with him the other day and mentioned the sewer spill, the South and Clear Lake, right? James Gallagher, and he knew nothing about it. So I had mentioned to him about maybe reaching out and trying to get some funding to help with that area.
And is he state or
He's,
state?
He's state,
Fed-
but he's still over in the Chico area.
no, he's federal now.
Well, he is, but he's still, until January 1st, after the general elections, he's still over in the old La Malfa district. The new
Yeah.
district doesn't start until January 1st.
Oh, I see, okay.
But if we can get him on our side to help us out,
Well, he's
all the better.
in Washington right now, so. But he wasn't aware of it.
It might be something worth it. I can work with Matt from the admin office, and maybe we could
Reach out.
reach out to him and give him the information that Congressman Thompson's submitting, and maybe he can help sponsor that.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, thank you for this. I wanted to just touch base on something about the new pump filter on Pueblo Trail, and I wanted to see how much savings you think that'll anticipate that will help with in their budget.
I don't know if we've actually done a fiscal analysis of that, but it should significantly save on power as well as chlorine. But we don't have any data, so I don't think we've just status quo, and we're expecting to have savings. Maybe at mid-year we'll know more.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, the pump is right there. It can go into the distribution system or directly into the tank. So instead of pushing all the way from the other end of the valley to the tank, there's going to be, you know, significant energy savings in that. And then it's much easier to treat well water with chlorine than it is to treat the surface water and send it through the plant. So we do expect savings there, but we are still going to have to run both systems.
No, thank you. No, I just wanted to make sure that, because I know that pumping that water all the way is
Especially
burden.
with electricity costs these days.
Yeah, yes. And then with lake restoration, the mitigation, that's not happening no more when it comes to that, because I know that was a situation.
We looked at not doing it because of the environmental requirements. Had they done the entire project that they had originally proposed, it was almost $7 million in wetlands mitigation credits that we had to pay for, which killed the project. However, with that grant, there is a construction component, otherwise we have to repay. So we have downsized that significantly to go outside of where there's no wetland mitigation needed, and we plan on doing that this summer. We just got the plans yesterday or the day before, so we're reviewing those, and we'll be going out to bid for a very much smaller area, but we'll still plan on removing a significant amount of sediment that leads into the lake. So hoping to mitigate less sediment going into the quote-unquote lake proper and expanding that.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, in Kelseyville, the lighting district, the business association, did they tie in with their lighting on the buildings? Is that part of the district or is that separate?
No, they didn't actually go forward with that, so they did not tie into the
Okay,
district.
so they're doing it on their own?
Yes.
It looks great, okay. And I just wanted to also share with Supervisor Owen, the lighting districts don't have a lot of money, and so when things happen, discretionary funding is the best way to fix light poles and do all those fun things. In Kelseyville, I had to do that several times. There's just no reserves to put in the new historic looking light posts.
Well, I wasn't looking at light posts, I just didn't know if we could change out the bulbs to be LED to save money.
Yeah,
It's the kind of fixtures, because of how industrial they are, you can't just
change out the, like in your house, you just change out your regular
Right,
incandescent to an LED and it fits in the socket and works
Yes.
great. That doesn't.
But I do remember years ago that there was a PG&E study on all of them and working.
And I think that there are some that were changed out, but not every light in the county has been changed.
All right, I wanted to mention a couple of things. I know with the Land's End, Reeves Point, South Main system, we're better off now. We've approved that rate study, and I know in the budget objectives, we talk about consolidation of that potentially with Kelseyville Waterworks, but right, which also because it's what I wanted to bring up because we're expiring on a contract right now for Lakeport to take that sewer. It's definitely too small of a district to remain on its own, so I just want to make sure that we can also engage with the city of Lakeport regarding potential annexation of that system, since it already goes to the Lakeport system.
Yeah, that's one of our negotiation points in our upcoming contract.
Okay, great. And then, again, not to make any budget changes, but I also want to mention the South Lakeport Water. As the board knows, we've been working on this for a few years. We have, again this year, put in for earmarks from Congress for potential money for a system down in the South Main Soda Bay Road area. It was denied last year. This year, we don't have an answer yet, but we do know that there's been some amounts of money that's been pushed forward by both the U.S. Senate and the congressmen for potential funding. We don't know if we're going to get any of that. We're also in collaborative talks with the city and Senator McGuire's office for money for a water system, because we really need to get it intertie and serve that South Main area. And I'll bring it up during the administration budget, but the board still has the $2 million that has for 11 years at this point, I believe, been sitting there marked for South Main water, and it hasn't been, there's been no final decision. So I'll bring that up again during the admin, but thank you. Is there any other questions from the board before we open it to the public? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it to the public in the room. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak on any of these budget units for special districts.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Margot Kambara. I have administrative and management suggestions with budget implications. It's not specifically or exclusively for special districts, and it applies to other departments. And that is, recently your board discovered that rate studies were not done on a regular basis, resulting in steep increase in fees to residents to cover the current cost of service and operations. Similarly, some departments have not been recommending fee increases on a regular basis over the past 10 to 15 years. And the result is a significant increase in fees to residents. Turnover among staff and the Board of Supervisors results in a loss of institutional memory. Perhaps the county's enterprise management system, right now it looks like it's going to be Workday or is Workday, can track reminders to consider fee and rate study reviews on a regular interval, such as every 5 years. Perhaps admin could own this task and confer with department directors to determine whether rate study or fee increases should be recommended to your board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room? No? Do we have anyone online? Sterling, we'll unmute you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I first want to thank Robin for doing the hard work that Spring Valley community has been fighting for many, many years. We finally feel like our voices are heard. We are very appreciative of it. We've been dealing with pretty much kind of a failing system for over 10 years. historic water loss. She's getting the grant money. She's having her employees go in and retrieve those. Yes, their administration's wages are going to be going up, but the raises that you guys approved last June, those administrators and those directors are making a significantly bigger amount of money than they are. And they aren't even going out and looking for grant funding. A prime example would be, I'm not saying it's Lars Ewan, but the previous directors of Public Works have never even applied for one grant to even try to get a bridge over Old Long Valley. So Spring Valley does appreciate the hard work that Rambori has been putting in. Our lake recovery is finally coming too. It's been, I think, 20 plus years since we've been working on that. So thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling. Do we have anyone else online? No, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for any final comments or action on this budget. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
Before I take action, I'm hoping, I know that it was brought up before about Highland Springs, and we have some awkwardness here where special districts also takes care of roads, a community center, like it's kind of an oddball situation. Yeah, and it's just, I think it would be nice if maybe we can have a conversation at one point of compartmentalizing things in a more efficient location where they have the better means to care for these things and work on these things and manage these things. It seems hard to have a one-size-fits-all department that has things that don't quite fit, and maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe the CSA has a very specific stipulation that you can't disconnect these things, but it just feels odd at times how things are the way they are, and it doesn't feel like it's done in the most efficient ways. And if we're looking for using and stretching our dollars to the best of our abilities, continuing as is does not, without the conversation to see if we could do better, does not appear to be the best way to go. So just wanted to make that statement. Other than that, I will go ahead and approve Lighting District budgets 8210 through 8219 and 8461. Lands End 8351. I'll just continue with the numbers. 8352 through 8356, 8460, 8462, 8466, 8473, 8480, 8481, 8593, and 8695. As proposed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0. And we're going to conclude this item. Thank you, Director and staff. Do we have UC? No.
Please go ahead with health services.
What was that?
Please go ahead with health services.
Next, I'll call our Health Services Department, and this will be for all budget units under their management, and I'll read them off. Jail Medical Services, 2304. Environmental Health, 4010. Public Health, 4011. Health Administration, 4012. Tobacco Education 4016, and Veterans Service Office at 5321. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Fracco and staff to present.
Good morning, Board.
Is that on?
Good morning, Board. Can you hear me?
I think you're good. It might just have it a little closer.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My name is Lisa Faracco. I'm Health Services Director. I'm joined by Tuesday Gallardo, our Fiscal Manager. Health Services Department oversees a number of budget units. You have named them all off, so I won't do the same. We'll go through them one by one and talk about any position adjustments that we've had as we go through each budget unit, unless you would rather we talk about position allocations in the beginning.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So let's start with Veteran Services. We'll do the easy ones first and then go into the larger budget units. So Veteran Services is budget unit 5321. This budget oversees all of the claims and preparation for veteran-specific benefits like disability, pension, healthcare, education,
vocational rehab, home loans, life insurance, those sorts of things. They work with the state and federal government and local agencies to maximize benefits for their clients. And a lot of the work that they do is specifically outreach into the community. The only significant change we have in this budget unit this year is an increase to office supplies for outreach, because benefits for veterans have been changing. And so there is outreach going out to the community, and also ensuring that we are properly budgeting for leave cash outs at the end of the year. Any questions about veterans?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Next, we'll do tobacco education. This is 4016. I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but I'm just hitting the easy ones first.
That's fine.
Tobacco education program is a state-mandated public health program. This budget unit oversees the work of providing education and outreach into the community. We receive funding from state tobacco funds, Prop 99 and Prop 56, and this is primarily a pass-through to the public health budget. Any questions about tobacco?
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor.
Yeah, the DOJ grant, what department does that go to? Does that go to environmental health? Does that go to our law enforcement?
So the DOJ grant will be a collaboration between public health and environmental health, and then other local law enforcement agencies. So we were waiting to have our MOUs with the cities completed before we would move into the DOJ activities. We're now done with that, yes. And so this coming fiscal year, we can work on rolling out the DOJ. We need to put together MOUs with local law enforcement to do the enforcement side of that, which is a priority for us in this coming fiscal year.
Okay, but what department does the grant reside?
The grant is under public health.
Okay.
Is that correct, Tuesday?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, the grant is under public health. We'll transfer funds across to environmental health to cover the work that's done on that side, and then, of course, to the other county agencies to reimburse staff time.
And so does that mean if you hire a decoy, that will be, is that going to be seen as extra help, or is that going to be, okay. I just wanted to check in on the position allocation because I'm excited about it and I don't want to slow anything down.
Yes, that will be an extra help position, and we anticipate flying that in the very near future.
Thank you.
Okay. The next budget unit that we have is jail medical. The jail medical budget unit is actually a county budget unit that is overseen by the Department of Health Services. We oversee the contract for jail medical services in the jail. The changes to that budget unit for this fiscal year are the increase in the contract with WellPath, our current contractor. We will be seeing an RFP in the next fiscal year for jail medical services. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this one hurts. It's obviously a mandate. It's the right thing to do to take care of the folks that we have incarcerated. But, I mean, you look at the history of it, believe in 2010 it was maybe $1 million, and now we're up to $4.2 million and then some. That's a huge increase, even though our population in jail has decreased, which is just, it hurts. I hope that we can figure out I don't know if it's a CalAIM solution. I know in my mind we need like one wing of especially with 103, one wing should be a hospital wing, because then if you're in there for 24 hours, you can go ahead and bill Medi-Cal. But we have to figure out a way to decrease this amount, because it's between providing health care to our staff and providing health care to our jail inmates, it's killing us. And so I hope that there's a solution somewhere in there in the future, because that price just keeps escalating.
We are well aware of the difficulties at health services. There are two things happening here that your board should be aware of. The first is that the county is part of a feasibility study for regionalizing jail medical services. That is currently happening. The other is that we are working on the CalAIM implementation in the jail currently, and when that is complete, it will allow us to bill for some Medi-Cal eligible services. That is part of the JI implementation that is being done currently as an amendment to the contract, which I expect you will see in the coming months.
Yeah, and I believe Alameda is a good example of, they have like an emergency hospital situation within their jail so that they can get reimbursed for the work that they do.
Thank you for that. Okay. I think I've done all of the little ones. Did I miss any of the small ones Tuesday?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so let's dig into environmental health. This is Budget Unit 4010. This is the regulatory agency that oversees permits and inspections, food safety, sewer-related water wells, those sorts of things. It also oversees our hazmat program in the county, which is CUPA, and works with the tobacco retail licensing ordinance that was implemented last year. This year for environmental health, we did increase the fee schedule by CPI to try and avoid those shockingly high fee increases. So we will try to roll out increases in a small manner as they go with CPI to make that a little more
palatable.
Yeah, not as difficult for our community members. We did estimate low on our revenue in this budget unit because of current economic uncertainties. So if we see at mid-year that we are receiving more revenue than anticipated, we may come with changes at a mid-year budget.
Question? Vice Chair.
Yeah, I'll tie this to the budget, but we're having the conversation about environmental health. And I know one of the burdens right now are the unpermitted food vendors that are all around the county, and we need to have this conversation as a board at a different time, hopefully soon, because I know that enforcement is really difficult for this. These are the vendors that move around at night, which means it's Craig out there working on his own. There's no funding, obviously you're balanced here, so there's no way to increase enforcement. But I'm just requesting that this conversation come back to us soon, because it is impacting all of our communities, our local businesses, and causing environmental issues as well, so.
Understood.
Yeah.
This conversation is being had, preliminary conversations are being had. We anticipate requesting to implement an ordinance to allow law enforcement to actually enforce an ordinance. We don't have funding for this, so this is something that we will have to figure out how to afford. I do want to point out a couple of changes that we've put in our environmental health budget this year. We did unfund an environmental health tech position and funded an environmental health supervisor position. That was the position allocation change there. The other big change is that we set aside $50,000 for overtime. So we had an issue this year with an emergency response that was required, and we did not have overtime available to respond to that. So that is something that we have tried to account for this year. I hope that we do not need it, but if we do, it is budgeted for. You'll also see that we have an increase in the health administration fee because we saw a significant liability insurance increase as a department overall.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I look forward to that conversation.
Thank you. Okay, the next budget unit is public health. This is 4011. Public health oversees a number of programs, many of them mandated. We have the AIDS Drug Assistance Program, California Children's Services, Medical Therapy Unit, lead prevention, foster care, psychotropic medication, communicable disease investigation, emergency preparedness, health equity, HIV surveillance, vaccines for children, and the list goes on and on and on. The work that is done in the public health department is incredibly important to the health of our community. and it is primarily funded through realignment and through grants. We do have a number of grants in our in this department, or this division of the department. We have some changes here this year. The position allocation, I have notes specific to it. So we began a reorganization in the spring to bring many of our programs back under the clinical oversight of our Director of Nursing, which would allow us to have sufficient oversight of those programs, but also to bill our grants more efficiently. So that change has happened. We are working to right-size our organization, and that includes some restructuring. So as we're moving people around, rebuilding our career ladders, making sure that we have those entry-level positions so that we can get people into our department. We have removed positions that we have been historically unable to fill because we just can't compete with local hospitals and healthcare agencies. We removed the nurse practitioner. We've removed the FEP coordinator, which we reclassed as a manager because there is overtime and on-call required in that position. The county will be better served by a manager in that role. We removed the public information officer position. We are well served by the county administrative office with their public information officer services. We have added a couple of positions, but listed them as unfunded. This includes a nurse various position and community health worker and health program support specialists. When we come back to you at final budget, we will have a better idea of what our staffing structure will look like based on our grant final allocations. Many of our grants have not published the actual amounts yet, and so we cannot adequately plan for staffing those programs until we have a better idea of what that funding looks like. We did add a public health aide position, which is part of that rebuilding our entry-level workforce. And this past fiscal year, we started a public health aide internship program. So we're starting with the kids while they're in school and then helping to filter them into our department at the entry level. Okay, significant changes in this budget. We saw a gigantic increase in our public liability insurance. I think it was 800% increase in our public liability insurance. And so this is, of course, passed along to the other divisions that we support as an administrative fee. Our revenue is estimated low because we want to ensure that we are living within our means as an organization. We will come back to you with updated information when we have final numbers. Is there anything? Were there any questions about the public health budget?
Doesn't appear to be.
Okay.
I do have a quick question. I'll probably embarrass myself here. So I know that social services does the eligibility, well, not really eligibility, but provides the access to the CMSP programs for indigent care. Doesn't that cost of indigent care have an impact on health services, public health itself?
Yes.
Okay, so can you explain where that is in your budget in preparation for the increase? Like right now we're looking, I was told, between 150 and maybe 300 people currently. That number appears to grow based on what we're understanding the impacts will be. So trying to figure out how you're managing that within your budget in preparation for what we anticipate.
That's a really good question, and thank you for asking it. So historically,
I'm so glad I was right. I thought I might be off a little.
CMSP or indigent care does fall under the health services department. CMSP as a program has been picked up under social services for a number of years. I don't have a lot of knowledge on the why or the how that transition happened. It's clear that there will at least be a share of cost for health services in the indigent care program as we move forward. We have not budgeted for indigent care, which we anticipate we will see those costs in 2 years because we simply have no idea how much it will be. We are hearing anywhere from $350,000 to millions of dollars. And it's not possible to build a budget that will not allow us to provide our mandated services for a situation that we're not even sure is going to happen. There is work being done at the state level. There is a 2-year pilot project called Protect California's Historic Health Coverage Gains and Protect Access to Healthcare PATH. It made it through the Assembly. I don't believe it's on the Senate budget. But there is work being done at the state level to either fund CMSP programs for the counties, fund indigent care, or provide emergency California-specific insurance that would help pad that cost. So not pad the counties from that cost. So it's an important question. I don't have 100% answer for you. We will know more once the final budget at the state comes out.
What would be really great, I guess I'll talk about myself rather than my colleagues, but I feel like I'm in a similar situation as the state, Senate, and Assembly, where indigent care has not been the topic of conversation, and so there's not that experience, because what we've seen is an increase in people accessing insurance. And so it would be nice to get a crash course, like a Indigent Care 101, when that's available and possible, so that we can better understand what the possibilities, what the costs are, what the level of access is. I'm just ignorant to, I think I have an understanding of it, but I know I don't know the full understanding. So at one point it would be, I think, really useful for all of us to better understand what could be coming.
Thank you. I think many of us are not 100% sure because it's been some time since indigent care has fallen to the counties. I can tell you it is a priority for CDPH and for our representative agency, CHIAC, which is the Health Executive Representative Agency for Government. There's a lot of work being done on this right now. And as we learn more, I will provide that information to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about public health?
I have one on the budget for, we kind of went past it, but just for the people watching, I just wanted to make a note that where you mentioned the insurance, public liability has went up in 2024 and 2025, it was $6,134. In 2025, 2026, it went up to almost 40,000, and this year it went up to 377,775.
That is correct.
So it's illegal. It should be illegal. I mean, that is crazy.
It's a significant concern of our department because this, of course, dips into the funding that we have available to provide services. Okay, so health administration. So the health administration is budget unit 4012. We oversee the central direction, oversight, accounting, personnel maintenance, contracts, grants management, software support, all of the supportive services to the budget units that we oversee as a health services department. This budget unit houses our grants analysts that oversee our grant drawdown, the accounting team, HR, our business software analyst, and of course our director and deputy director roles. The only position allocation changes that I have at this time are the unfunding of a grant manager and a move of a staff services analyst senior from public health over to administration. She's currently doing a lot of work to support environmental health and public health, which is an administrative function. I do anticipate some changes to our position allocation at final budget. There's been some turnover in our department, and I'm not 100% sure what this division is going to look like in the future. We're looking to right size and make changes that we can both afford and that best serve our community and the department. The big changes that we have in this budget unit are, of course, the public liability insurance, We also moved the majority of the mandatory $25,000 maintenance for buildings and improvements. We moved that into the administrative budget rather than having it in each of the division budgets. We felt like that was an administrative burden. Was there anything else here Tuesday that was significant? That's all. Okay. Is there any questions about the administrative budget?
Go ahead, Supervisor.
Just a share of concern, even though I'm sure you have a plan, that your department is so reliant on grants, and to hear that the position of grant manager is gone at the moment. I will support your plan, but wanted to share my concern because your department's so reliant on those.
Thank you. We are incredibly reliant on grants, and we have lost significant funding in the past year. Currently, the work that would be handled by a grant manager is done by each of the deputies in the individual divisions, as well as my fiscal team and the grants analysts on that team. The grant manager position has been difficult to recruit for because it simply doesn't pay what a grant manager is paid elsewhere. And I don't know that it's the right position for the organization. So this, of course, I'm brand new in my role, and I want to ensure that I fully understand the needs of our department before I'm making significant changes. But we are very aware that we rely on grant funding and that it is important to continue to bring in grants in the future.
Okay, do we have any other questions at this point? Not seeing any, I'll go ahead and open it to the public. Do we have anybody in the room that wishes to comment on health services? Not seeing any in the room, do we have anyone online?
We do. We have Rachel Parsons.
Director Parsons, go ahead.
Good morning. I just had a couple points of clarification where social services interacts in a couple areas. The MCIEP program, the Medi-Cal inmate eligibility program that Bruno referenced, typically requires inmates to be removed off-site and hospitalized for 24 hours. I'd love to know how the other county is making that work with the co-located facility. And we do already enroll folks in that program for Medi-Cal billing, as long as the jail refers them to us if they're removed off-site. So we're happy to get people enrolled there. Regarding the county medical services program, our current caseload is not very large. It's just a handful of people. I am guessing the 150 to 350 is the estimate for the future that someone has given. With regard to funding, my department, Social Services, receives a state allocation to determine eligibility and enroll people in the program and maintain their cases. And then Public Health has been historically responsible for meeting the county's share of costs towards indigent care. That has been funded in the past through realignment directly kind of moved by the state. So it does not actually come out of either our departments. It kind of happens before we receive our realignment funding. So it wouldn't necessarily be in the department budget. And my understanding is that CMSP has sufficient funding to operate for at least another year before needing to ask counties for funding. So I hope that is helpful, and I'm happy to share whatever knowledge is useful with Director Farraco anytime you want to talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Do we have anyone else online? Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for action or final questions or comments.
Just a quick comment. The Medicaid inmate exclusion program is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of in my life, where if you go to jail, you lose access to health care, meaning that we have to pay 100% of the cost with no insurance coverage. And the facility is adjacent to the jail and is titled a hospital. They've just gone through the process to make it two separate facilities, so you're no longer in jail. So it's off-site.
All right, if there's
Yeah.
nothing further, go ahead.
I will, motion to approve budget units 2304, 4010, 4011, 4012, 4016, and 5321.
Second.
Second. Oh.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0. Thank you.
Great job, Director.
Thank you, and to Director Dillman Parsons, I look forward to future collaboration between our departments.
Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and recess into lunch, and we'll come back at 1 o'clock. And I expect to call UC Cooperative and Water Resources at that time. Thank you.